The battlefield of the future. The planet Oris 9 was a wasteland of crumbling cities and scorched battlefields. Once a prosperous trading hub, it had become just another contested rock in humanity's war against the Galactic Coalition. From the bridge of his warship, Commander Trelvon observed the world below with a mixture of contempt and frustration. This is the last major human stronghold in this sector, his intelligence officer, Subcommander Yilrek, reported. Their forces are cut off from reinforcements. Victory is all but certain. Trelvon folded his upper arms behind his back, his lower arms tapping the control panel. And yet, he mused, they are still here. Fighting. It was baffling. By all logic, the humans should have surrendered years ago. The Coalition controlled thousands of worlds. Their fleets outmatched anything the humans could field. Their weapons were far more advanced. Energy-based firearms, self-repairing battle armor, and AI-coordinated strike teams. Humans, by contrast, still relied on projectile weapons, gunpowder, and metal slugs. Obsolete relics of a barbaric past. And yet, those same relics had cost the Coalition more casualties than any species before them. Trelvon exhaled through his breathing vents. No matter. Today he would end this. The assault begins. Coalition warships rained down shimmering columns of plasma, leveling entire city blocks where human resistance was believed to be hiding. Drop ships descended like silver meteors, deploying squads of elite soldiers, sleek, armored figures wielding plasma rifles and energy blades. Urban warfare was supposed to be easy, but Oris 9 was different. The first sign of trouble came when the first wave of troops entered the ruins. Reports of unexpected resistance flooded Trelvon's command feed. Then distress calls. Then silence. The second wave fared no better. As soon as the soldiers advanced into the debris-laden streets, gunfire erupted from unseen positions. Not plasma blasts, bullets. Small, supersonic projectiles that shredded. The limits of energy warfare. Commander Trelvon stood in the dimly lit war chamber aboard his flagship, his forearms gripping the edges of the tactical console. The battle for Oris 9 was not going as planned. It was supposed to be a routine operation, drop superior forces onto the battlefield, neutralize resistance with overwhelming firepower, and declare victory within a cycle. Instead, his forces were being butchered. Across the room, Dr. Zenthos, the Coalition's leading weapons specialist, tapped impatiently at a holographic display. His deep blue chitin glowed under the console's light as he analyzed battle footage. This doesn't make sense, he muttered. By every metric, human weapons are outdated. And yet, we're losing troops at an unacceptable rate. Trelvon clenched his mandibles. Tell me something I don't know, scientist. Zenthos swiped a clawed finger across the screen, replaying one of the most recent ambushes. The footage, taken from the helmet cam of a fallen Coalition soldier, showed the troopers advancing through the ruins in tight formation, their energy shields shimmering. Suddenly, sharp cracks echoed from the rubble. The soldiers' shields flared as bullets struck, but the impacts caused unexpected disruptions, overloading personal shield emitters. Without their energy barriers, the soldiers fell within seconds, taken down by technology the Coalition had long dismissed as obsolete. Zenthos paused the footage, zooming in on the weapons the humans wielded. Slug throwers, he said, voice tinged with disbelief. Ballistic firearms, chemically propelled projectiles. By all logic, these should be ineffective against modern armor. Trelvon narrowed his eyes. And yet, our warriors are dying. Explain. The fatal flaws of energy warfare. Zenthos exhaled through his spiracles. Energy shielding technology is designed to repel plasma-based weaponry, dispersing heat and radiation across the barrier. It works against directed energy, but kinetic impacts. He gestured to the footage. That's different. Shields aren't built to absorb momentum the way they deflect plasma. The sheer physical force of a bullet still transfers through, breaking bones, rupturing organs. Worse, the shield generators themselves overload under sustained ballistic fire. Trelvon's secondary hearts quickened. He had always believed the Coalition's technological superiority made them invincible. Now he was being told it was a liability. There's more, Zinthos continued grimly. Our armor, which is designed to dissipate heat, is almost useless against traditional bullets. Kinetic rounds punch straight through it. The more we rely on energy shielding, the less prepared we are for physical projectiles. Trelvon frowned, but before he could respond, another officer approached. Subcommander Yilrek saluted sharply. Commander, we have intercepted human communications. Their tactics are, he hesitated, mandibles clicking. Their tactics are unlike anything we have encountered. Trelvon turned to him. Explain. Yilrek pulled up a strategic map of Oris 9's battlefield. The humans aren't fighting in a traditional formation. They're using guerrilla tactics, hit-and-run attacks, ambushes, false retreat maneuvers. They strike, disappear, and reposition before we can respond. They're using the environment against us, collapsing buildings, setting traps, using explosives in ways we never predicted. Zinthos grimaced. Of course, their weapons require no advanced power sources, no recharging. They function in all conditions. Meanwhile, our troops are reliant on energy weapons that require a constant supply of power. Trelvon's frustration grew. You're telling me we've engineered ourselves into a disadvantage? Yes, Zinthos admitted. Humans are using simplicity as a weapon. A costly realization. The implications were chilling. The Coalition had long abandoned projectile weapons, deeming them crude, inefficient. But humans had never followed that path. Instead, they had perfected the old ways, ensuring their weapons worked every time, in every environment, with minimal logistical strain. Trelvon's mandibles clicked in irritation. What are our options? Zinthos hesitated. There is no immediate solution. We either adapt, or we suffer greater losses. Trelvon turned back to the battle map, watching as more red markers, fallen Coalition forces, flickered across the display. He clenched his fists. For the first time in his career, he feared he was fighting a war his side couldn't win. The breaking point. The battlefield of Oris 9 was a graveyard of shattered technology. Smoking wrecks of once impenetrable Coalition war machines littered the ruins. Scorched metal, charred alien corpses, and spent bullet casings painted a grim picture of the battle's true nature. This wasn't a war of technological superiority. It was a war of survival, and the humans were winning. Commander Trelvon watched from the bridge of his flagship, his mandibles clicking in frustration. Every battle report told the same story. Human forces, though vastly outnumbered, were decimating his troops. Commander, came the tense voice of Subcommander Yilrek, standing rigid by the tactical display. Our third assault wave has been neutralized. The humans let our forces advance into the city center, then collapsed the surrounding buildings, cutting off retreat. Trelvon clenched his fists. Survivors? Minimal. Most were eliminated before they could regroup. The commander exhaled sharply. The human resistance should have been crushed by now. But every time the Coalition pressed forward, the humans countered with a level of tactical brutality no alien army had ever faced. The human counterattack. The Coalition's response was swift. Trelvon ordered a full-scale counteroffensive, deploying advanced war machines, autonomous drones, energy bombardments, and reinforced infantry equipped with the most powerful shielding technology available. For a moment, it seemed to work. The sheer firepower of the Coalition forced the human forces to retreat deeper into the city ruins. Energy blasts seared through buildings, and drones patrolled the skies, hunting down any remaining pockets of resistance. But then, just as victory seemed near, the trap was sprung. The humans jammed the Coalition's drone network using primitive yet effective radio interference, blinding the Coalition's automated systems. Troops on the ground, used to fighting alongside AI-driven support, suddenly found themselves vulnerable. And then came the artillery. From concealed positions, human mortars and rocket launchers opened fire, raining down high-explosive shells on the Coalition's advancing forces. Plasma shields were useless. They were designed to disperse energy, not absorb raw kinetic force. The shells shattered coalition formations, turning once unstoppable warriors into scattered, disoriented targets. Trelvawn's subordinates stared in horror as the battle display flickered with emergency signals. "They're using ballistic missiles against our orbital forces," Yulrek shouted. The bridge crew turned as one. "Impossible," a strategist cried. "Our anti-plasma defense grid is designed to intercept energy-based attacks," Yulrek cut in grimly. "Not projectiles. Missiles designed centuries ago ripped through coalition warships, bypassing their sophisticated energy defenses entirely. They had never even considered the possibility that an enemy would fight this way." Panic and collapse. The coalition forces on the ground, now leaderless and without air support, began to break. Entire units abandoned their positions, some throwing down their weapons and retreating into the ruins, others falling in a desperate last stand. Trelvawn watched in cold silence as the once organized invasion turned into a chaotic slaughter. Human snipers dug into defensible positions, picked off stragglers. Shotguns and explosives tore through squads attempting to regroup. The battle had turned into a massacre, but not the one the coalition had expected. "Commander," Yulrek said, his voice low, "we need to withdraw." Trelvawn's fists trembled, his pride demanding he reject the idea. The coalition did not retreat from lesser species. But this was no ordinary enemy. He turned back to the war map. His army was gone. Slowly, he gave the order he never thought he'd have to. "Signal a retreat. Pull back all remaining forces." The shock of defeat. As the remaining coalition forces scrambled for evacuation, Trelvawn stood at the viewport, staring down at Horus 9. Humans were not primitive. They were practical. They had never abandoned outdated weapons. Not because they were incapable of progress, but because they understood war in a way the coalition never had. And today, that knowledge had won them a war. The lesson learned. The remnants of the once mighty coalition invasion force drifted in the void above Horus 9, shattered and humiliated. Warships that had been symbols of technological dominance now bore the scars of an enemy they had underestimated. The retreat had been swift, but not before the humans made sure the coalition would remember their failure. Commander Trelvawn stood in the silent war chamber of his flagship, staring at the casualty reports scrolling across the holoscreen. The numbers were staggering. The coalition had lost tens of thousands of troops, countless drones, and several capital ships, to a species that still fought with gunpowder and steel. The doors hissed open, and Dr. Zenthos stepped inside, his blue chitin dulled with exhaustion. "It's worse than we thought, Commander," he admitted. Trelvawn turned sharply. "Worse than total defeat." Zenthos hesitated, then brought up a tactical analysis. "The humans never transitioned to energy-based warfare because they didn't need to. We assumed that once a species reached a certain technological level, they would naturally abandon kinetic weapons. But humans evolved differently. They didn't just perfect outdated weapons. They weaponized simplicity itself." He zoomed in on a battle sequence from the final engagement. A squad of human soldiers reloading their rifles with quick, practiced efficiency. Coalition soldiers scrambling, their depleted energy packs leaving them defenseless. A tank vaporized by a high-explosive round, bypassing its energy shielding entirely. "They don't need power sources," Zenthos continued. "They don't rely on complex shielding systems. Their weapons function in any condition: EMP interference, energy fluctuations, even total technological collapse. Their combat tactics are adaptive because they're used to war in a way we are not." Trelvawn clenched his fists. He had spent his career believing the coalition was invincible. That belief had been shattered. The council's debate. Days later, Trelvawn stood before the coalition high command, presenting his report to the ruling council. The gathered officials, representatives of dozens of species, listened in tense silence as he laid out the truth. "Our military doctrine has failed," Trelvawn admitted. "We relied on the superiority of energy-based warfare without questioning its weaknesses. The humans have exposed them all." The chamber erupted in murmurs. Some officials were furious, demanding new strategies. Others dismissed humanity's victory as a fluke. One council member, a high-ranking strategist, scoffed. Are you suggesting we regress to slug throwers? That we abandon our progress? Trelvawn's mandibles clicked in irritation. I'm suggesting we learn. The humans did not win because they were more advanced. They won because they understood something we forgot. War is not about sophistication. It is about effectiveness. Dr. Zinthos stepped forward. We must reconsider our approach to warfare. We must adapt, or we will lose the next war before it begins. The council fell into a long, uneasy silence. The human's perspective. Back on Oris 9, General Carter, the human commander responsible for the victory, stood in the ruins of what had once been a coalition forward base. His soldiers were rearming, checking their rifles, laughing in the way only those who had survived a brutal fight could. He watched as a captured coalition scientist, an insectoid strategist named Varlek, observed human soldiers with something close to fear. You still don't understand, Carter said, noticing the alien's gaze. Varlek hesitated. Your people, they still use weapons that our civilization abandoned millennia ago. How do we lose? Carter smirked, lifting his rifle and chambering a fresh round with a satisfying click. Because when your fancy tech failed, we were still ready to fight. You see, we don't throw away what works. We refine it. We perfect it. We make sure it kills. Varlek shuddered. For the first time, the aliens understood. Epilogue. The future of war. As the coalition licked its wounds and the humans prepared for the next fight, one truth became clear. Humanity was not the primitive species the galaxy once thought. And the next time war came, the coalition would not be the ones teaching the lessons. The humans would.